Good evening, night owls and restless minds, and welcome to Disturbed Historian, where the past doesn't sleep quietly, and neither do we. Before we dig up tonight's twisted tale, tell me, where are you watching from and what time is it by your clock? I love seeing who's tuning in from shadowy bedrooms, midnight kitchens, and 3 a.m. train rides across the world. Drop your location in the comments. Let's map this madness together. Now, tonight's episode is not for the faint of heart. We're stepping into a world where comfort was a myth, where survival was the bedtime story, and where sleep, if it came at all, was earned in blood, smoke, and ritual. This isn't history the way you learned it in school. This is the kind they whispered about by firelight, the kind that leaves a mark. So kill the lights, maybe light a candle if you dare. Let the hum of the night settle into your bones and get ready, because tonight we're not just telling a story, we're waking the dead. Let's plunge deep into the rugged, windswept world of the Mongol Empire. Crafted by the iron will of Genghis Khan, a man who clawed his way from a kidnapped orphan, with trust issues to the architect of the largest, contiguous land empire ever seen. I'd love to connect with you all. It's incredible to see who's joining this journey from across the planet. Now picture this, dim the lights, maybe switch on a fan for that gentle humming backdrop. And let's ride into the steppes together, where the air bites, the horizon stretches forever, and survival is the only currency that holds weight. You wake up beside a frozen river, cocooned in coarse wool that reeks of damp yak, stale sweat, and the faint musk of last week's campfire. The sun hasn't dared to rise, and your boots are crusted with frost, stiff as old leather, creaking with every move. Something snoring too close for comfort, your horse naturally. He's not just your ride. He's your bedmate, your heater, your lifeline, and, if the world turns grim, your next meal. Personal space is a fantasy from some far-off land. Your horse snorts a cloud of warm breath across your face, steps on your coat as you struggle to stand. Sands doesn't bother with an apology. Mongol horses don't apologize. They're too busy surviving, their eyes gleaming with the same stubborn grit you're expected to muster. These horses, small but relentless, are bred for the steppes' cruelty, their hooves tough as flint, their stamina unmatched by the pampered steeds of distant empires. They can gallop for hours on sparse grass, their ribs visible but their spirits unbroken, carrying you through blizzards and battles with equal indifference. The camp around you is already alive, moving like smoke caught in a gust, silent and purposeful. No one speaks. They just mount up and vanish into the dawn's grey haze. A kid, maybe 10, gallops past, yawning as if this is just another morning. His bow is longer than his body, his saddle worn smooth by years he hasn't yet lived. He's been riding since he could crawl, trained to shoot arrows from horseback before he could speak full sentences, his aim as steady as a seasoned. Warriors, you're still shaking frost from your nose, trying to remember which way is up, your fingers fumbling with the frozen knots of your gear. You tighten your sash, its knots digging into your waist, pack your gear with hands already numb from the cold, and climb onto your horse. The saddle, worn and patched, creaks under your weight, its leather stained with the sweat of 100 rides. There's no breakfast, no ceremony, no moment to gather your wits. You chew a strip of dried meat while riding, the kind so tough it feels like gnawing on a leather strap left out in the sun. If your jaw's weak, it'll be iron by tomorrow, if you make it to tomorrow. The meat, cured in salt and wind. Here's less food and more obligation, A reminder that sustenance on the steppe is a battle in itself. The wind hits like a blade, not decorative but vicious, slicing across your face, stinging your eyes and cracking your lips. By the third ridge, your cheeks are numb, your nose stings with every breath, and your eyes water against the relentless cold. The steppe offers no shelter, no trees to break the wind's assault, just an endless sea of grass that sways like a mocking chorus. No one checks if you're okay. On the steppe, you either keep up or become part of the landscape, a frozen footnote in someone else's saga, left behind for the wolves to claim. The wolves, ever present, shadow the camp, their eyes glinting in the dusk, waiting for the weak to falter. Their howls are the steppe's lullaby, a reminder that nature is as unforgiving as the men you ride with. By midday, you've switched horses twice, not because you're tired, but because they are. The Mongol system of remounts is a marvel of efficiency, with spare horses trailing the column, ready to take the strain when one falters. You're expected to be tougher than your mount, to carry more if the horse staggers, to push through when the animal's breath comes in ragged gasps. That's balance in the Mongol world, a code written in sweat and endurance. You eat from horseback, tearing at dried meat with your teeth, drink from a skin that sloshes with questionable liquid, even piss from horseback, aiming carefully to avoid soaking your own boots. Fall off? You're trampled, either by hooves or by the indifference of the riders behind you, their eyes fixed on the horizon. Stop moving? You're left behind, a speck fading into the grass. Complain? The wolves will sort you out before nightfall. Their howls a reminder that the steppe doesn't care for weakness. You ride because everyone rides, because there are no roads. No destinations, only speed and survival. Walking is for prisoners, and you're not one yet. Not if you keep moving. Keep breathing, keep proving you belong. The Mongol army moves like a living organism, each rider a cell in a vast, disciplined body, guided by signals as subtle as a raised hand or a whistle carried on the wind. Scouts fan out miles ahead, their eyes scanning for threats, their reports delivered with the precision of men who know a single mistake could doom the horde. Hunger gnaws at your gut, a constant companion. But breakfast isn't a meal. It's a challenge, a dare to your will to live. Someone tosses you a leather sack that sloshes with a sound that promises regret. It's erog, fermented mare's milk, white and sour, slightly fizzy, with a smell like a saddle after a month-long campaign through war-torn lands. You drink it because it's what's there, not because you want to. It's technically alcoholic, but not the kind that sparks laughter or songs. It's the kind that reminds you bacteria are real, thriving in your throat, coating your tongue with a tang that lingers like a bad decision. Irag is the lifeblood of the steppe, a staple that binds the Mongols together. From infants to elders, its sharp bite a test of endurance. Mongol children drink it, gulping it down with the same ease as warriors and grandmothers, their faces unperturbed by its bite. If it burns going down, that's how you know it's working, scouring your insides like a gritty promise of survival. Food comes next, maybe a chunk of dried mutton, gray and shriveled, so tough you could use it to patch your boots or fend off a wolf in a pinch. You chew it for 20 minutes, your jaw aching, and it doesn't get smaller, it just gets wetter, clinging to your teeth like a grudge that won't let go. Then there's curd, a rock-hard lump of sun-dried dairy that could double as a projectile in a siege. It tastes like sour dust, feels like gravel rolling across your tongue, and makes your teeth question their purpose in life. You consider crying, but your tears would freeze before they hit the ground, leaving you with nothing but the taste of defeat. Occasionally there's blood, mare's blood, drawn from a careful nick in the animal's vein, mixed with milk or drunk straight, warm and metallic. A grim necessity when food is scarce. It's not a delicacy, it's survival, a reminder that every part of the horse, from its milk to its marrow, is a gift from the steppe. You eat on the ground because there are no tables, no chairs, no napkins, just wind, wool and the faint, unsettling smell of something boiling nearby, something with hooves still bobbing in the pot. The fire is small, fueled by dried dung or brittle grass, its smoke curling into the sky like a prayer for warmth. Across from you, an old man finishes his meal in silence, his fingers deftly tying a new knot in his saddle rope, before sharpening his blade with the kind of intensity usually reserved for religious rituals. His eyes don't meet yours, but you feel the weight of his judgment, as if your slow chewing is a personal affront. His hands, gnarled and scarred, tell a story of battles fought and winters endured, each line a testament to survival. You don't ask what's in the food. Asking is a good way to stop being offered any. Mongols eat like they ride, fast, quiet, always ready to bolt at a moment's notice, their hands never far from a knife or a bow. You try to match their pace, gnawing on the mutton like it's a personal challenge, your teeth grinding against its resistance. You fail. The mutton fights back unyielding, a testament to the steppe's refusal to make anything easy. You're not full, not satisfied, but you're slightly less starving. And in the Mongol Empire, that's a victory worth celebrating, a small defiance against the hunger that stalks you like a shadow. The meal ends with a shared glance, not of camaraderie but of acknowledgement. You're still here, still chewing, still alive. Hygiene, it's a myth, a distant dream from a softer world where people have time for such nonsense. Clean means not dying of infection, and even that's negotiable on the steppe. You smell like horse leather smoke, and the sour tang of whatever your boots are caked in, probably a mix of mud, dung, and the regrets of a long ride. Everyone else smells the same, a collective odor of survival that hangs in the air like a fog. No one comments. Show up smelling like wildflowers. You're either a spy or cursed, possibly both, and you'll be watched until you prove otherwise. Water is for drinking, not bathing. Try scrubbing yourself with river water, and you'll end up with dysentery and skin softer than a city dweller's pride, a combination no Mongol would respect. Instead, you wipe your face with your sleeve, gritty with dust and sweat, and move on. There's no soap, just animal fat, ash, or a handful of sand if you're feeling fancy enough to call it exfoliation. Want a spa day? Rub your face with dust and pretend it's luxury on the steppe. Your hands are filthy, your nails sharp enough to count as weapons, your hair a greasy knot tied tightly under your cap. Appearance matters, but not the clean kind, the greasy, weathered kind that says you've survived another day, another ride, another winter. Lice, you don't remove them, you manage them. You name them, flick them into the fire during evening chats, or smear your skin with animal fat to dare them to keep biting. A silent challenge to creatures as stubborn as you are. Your clothes are wool, stiff, blood-stained from a goat you vaguely recall wrestling 3 winters ago, its bleat still echoing in your memory. You don't change them. You layer them, more in winter, fewer in summer, each layer a chronicle of dust, blood, and survival. Underwear doesn't exist, and neither does shame. Your teeth are your own problem. No brushes, no rinses. You chew bones, drink erug, and hope the acidity dissolves whatever's stuck between your molars. leaving a faint metallic taste. If a tooth decides it's done, you pry it out with your knife. No ceremony required, just a quick tug and a curse under your breath. Dental care is a luxury for those who don't ride with the horde, and you've long since traded luxury for survival. Now your first fight. You ride all morning. No clue where you're headed. The horizon a blur of grass and sky. The rhythm of hooves your only guide. The steppe is a vast canvas, its colors muted, gray sky, brown grass, the occasional streak of red where blood has spilled. Then dots appear, enemy riders, moving fast, their silhouettes sharp against the dawn. No one panics. Panic is for the unprepared, and Mongols are never unprepared. You reach for your bow, a short curved weapon of horn, sinew and raw intent, its weight reassuring in your hands. Mongol bows don't forgive mistakes, and they rarely miss twice. Crafted with layers of bone and tendon, they're designed to punch through armor at 300 yards, their strings taut with the promise of death. Your horse keeps galloping, its muscles taut beneath you. Slowing down would be embarrassing, a betrayal of the steppe's unspoken code. You twist in the saddle, lean into the wind and loose an arrow, the string snapping against your wrist. It flies true, cutting the air like a whispered promise. Their arrows come back, slicing through the wind, but yours hit first. 3 enemies drop before you can blink, their bodies crumpling into the grass like discarded rags. 2 more turn tail, their horses veering wildly, possibly rethinking their entire career path. This isn't the cinematic clash of swords you might imagine. No grand duels, no heroic speeches, just arrows, endless, precise, often tipped with poison for practicality, not cruelty. The Mongols' tactics are a symphony of deception. You feign a retreat, letting them chase, their shouts rising with false confidence. And then you spin in the saddle and shoot them in the face, your arrow finding its mark before they can blink. It's a dance, fast, brutal, silent but for the snap of bowstrings and the dull thud of arrows finding flesh. A scream pierces the air, short, final, swallowed by the wind. You don't look back. Wound one enemy, and his comrades waste time dragging him away, their formation faltering. Wound 2 and you've stalled their entire flank, their momentum crumbling like a poorly built wall. Efficiency is the Mongol way, more valued than honor or glory. You've fired maybe 50 arrows, maybe more. You've lost count, your quiver lighter with every shot. Your fingers blister, raw and stinging, the skin splitting under the strain. But you keep shooting because stopping means you won't have fingers or a future. By sunset, the fight is done, the horizon quiet again. You don't count kills, no one does. The only tally that matters is that you're still riding, still breathing, your horse's breath steaming in the cooling air. You wipe your blade, eat, sleep, and prepare to ride again tomorrow. The steppe stretching out before you like an endless challenge. Dinner follows the fight, and it's not a celebration but a necessity, a ritual of survival. You eat what you kill, tough meat from an animal that spent its life trudging uphill in a snowstorm, its muscles as unyielding as the land itself. You roast it on an iron spit that's been in the family longer than most of its members, its surface blackened by years of fire and blood. No spices, no salt, just fat. The Mongol lifeline, greasy, rich, essential to keep your soul from freezing in the night. You sit in a circle around a crackling fire, chewing in silence, everyone staring into the flames like they owe them something, their faces etched with the day's toll. A warrior beside you gnaws a rib clean, licks the bone with a practiced flick of his tongue, and tosses it behind him like it might sprout another goat in the spring. The fat is the prize, not for flavor but for survival, sticking to your ribs like a promise of another day, its warmth spreading through your chest. There's no bread, no vegetables, just meat, dairy, and something in a wooden bowl that might be soup or might be regret, its surface shimmering with an oily sheen. If someone hands you a chunk of organ meat, you take it, eat it, and don't ask what it was in life. Curiosity is a luxury you can't afford, a distraction from the task of staying alive. You're not a noble, not a guest. You're a stomach with legs and a knife, your hands stained with grease and ash. The bones go to the dogs who snap them up with eager jaws. The ashes go to the wind, swirling away into the night. You wipe your hands on your cloak, which doubles as napkin, towel and winter blanket, its fabric heavy with the memory of 100 meals. Someone belches loudly. It's polite, a sign of satisfaction in a world that demands you take what you're given. You try it, the sound awkward in your throat, but you feel a flicker of pride. You're adapting, becoming part of this world where every bite, every breath is a step toward survival. Winter arrives like a curse, not creeping but striking with bone-deep cruelty, wrapping around your ribs and whispering, "You were never meant to be here." The cold isn't just cold, it's a living thing, a predator with teeth sharper than any blade. The wind bites, aiming for your ears, your nose, any exposed skin, leaving it raw and stinging. Your breath turns to fog, then ice, then regret, crystallizing in your beard or lashes. You sleep pressed against your horse, not near it but with it, like a lover made of hay and muscle, its warmth the only thing keeping you from becoming a statue. It's awkward, but it's survival. And you're grateful for every snort and shuffle. Clothing becomes a game of layers. Wool, leather, fur, more wool, each piece stiff with dirt and blood, a chronicle of your time on the steppe. Your fingers vanish from feeling by mid-morning, your toes by the next day, their absence a dull ache you learn to ignore. Fewer things to stub, you tell yourself, but the thought brings little comfort. Firewood is scarce, so you burn frozen dung, its acrid smoke curling around your face, stinging your eyes and freezing your eyelashes together. You're part sculpture now, a figure carved from frost and determination. Your water's ice, your food's ice. Your nose bleeds from the dry, biting air, but you ride. Mongols don't stop for weather. Arrows and plagues are the only excuses worth mentioning. The horses prance through snow like it's a game, their hooves crunching rhythmically, while you curse silently, your jaw too stiff to form words. Stop and you freeze. Freeze and they bury you under a cairn of stones, the riders moving on without a glance, their silhouettes fading into the blizzard. Winter on the steppe is a test of more than endurance. It's a test of spirit. The Mongols revere Tengri, the sky god, whose will is written in the clouds and the storms. Every blizzard is a challenge from Tengri, every survival a mark of divine favor. You learn to read the sky, not for poetry but for survival. Dark clouds mean snow, a red dawn means wind, a clear night means frost so deep it cracks the earth. The shamans, with their drums and chants, call to the spirits during the worst storms, their voices rising above the wind. Their rituals a plea for the herd's survival, for the horses that carry the empire's weight. You don't pray, not yet, but you watch the sky with new respect, its vastness a reminder of your smallness, its cruelty a mirror of the steppe's demands. You meet the Khan, no legend but a man in a weathered fur coat, chewing dried meat with the casual focus of a bored butcher, his boots stained with blood from a battle. A goat, Or perhaps a tax collector who asked one question too many. He sits cross-legged on a plain wooden platform, his beard uneven, his eyes sharp enough to cut through steel. His presence is heavier than the step itself, a weight that presses against your chest. Genghis Khan, born Temujin, is no distant ruler. He's a man who remembers every betrayal, every loyalty, every face in his vast horde. His rise was no accident. Kidnapped as a child, enslaved, betrayed by his own tribe, he forged his empire through cunning, charisma, and unrelenting will. He speaks softly, his voice barely carrying over the wind's low moan. Miss it? That's your problem. Listen harder, strain your ears, or follow the rhythm of your own heartbeat. It's louder than his words. His orders are sharp, precise, absolute, right here. Burn this. Collect tribute. Don't fail. His tent is simple, its walls lined with hand-drawn maps, annotated in a script like a falcon's scroll, each line a plan to reshape the world. He sees rivers as roads, mountains as minor hurdles, kingdoms as prizes wrapped in weak diplomacy. You nod, everyone nods, even the toughest warriors. Men who outran siege fires nod like nervous children under his gaze. One coughs during the briefing, a small involuntary sound. He's gone by morning unmentioned, as if he never existed. The Khan cares about results. Did the city fall? Is the caravan moving? Are the horses fed? Fail, and you'd better be clutching your own severed arm as an excuse. You leave, saddle up, and ride into the cold, the Khan's words burning in your mind like a brand. Question him. You won't get a second chance. The steppe has no patience for dissent. The Khan's court is a microcosm of the empire, a blend of pragmatism and power. His generals, men like Subutai and Jebe, are legends in their own right, their names whispered with awe. Subutai, a strategist who could outthink a chessboard, planned campaigns that spanned continents, his mind as sharp as the arrows he loosed. Jebe, once an enemy who shot Genghis's horse from under him, earned his place by sheer audacity, his loyalty sealed in blood. These men, and others like them, are the Khan's eyes and hands, their loyalty absolute, their competence unmatched. You see them in the tent, their faces weathered, their hands steady as they trace routes on maps or sharpen their blades. The Khan trusts them, but trust is a currency earned daily. Step out of line, and the step swallows you whole. Now you're an ambassador, carrying the Khan's message, submit or burn. You ride into cities with marble gates, golden domes, and guards who eye you like a wolf invited to a banquet. They feed you lavish meals, their hands twitching near their swords, their questions probing for weakness. You're calm, your voice steady as you explain the benefits of Mongol protection, trade routes that flow like rivers, order that keeps bandits at bay, and massacres that are, well, fewer than they could be. Some submit, offering gold, horses, even daughters, their faces pale with the weight of their choice. You nod, leave, report back to the Khan. The city stands for now, its walls still casting shadows. Others hesitate, whispering behind silk curtains, their advisors debating in hushed tones. They send you back with vague answers and lavish gifts, silks, jewels, a horse too fine for the steppe. You smile, accept them, note every detail, from the guards' nervous glances to the cracks in their walls. Some, foolishly, kill the messenger. Their blades swift but short-sighted. They get fire, arrows, and 40,000 mounted archers with siege engines and a creative flair for using severed heads as warnings, strung up like grim banners. Diplomacy in the Mongol Empire is swift. One message, one chance, no second letters, no negotiations. You deliver the Khan's will, and if the world listens, it lives. If not, it burns. The Mongol postal system, the YAM, ensures your reports reach the Khan with terrifying speed. Riders changing horses at stations every 25 miles, their messages carried across continents in days. You've seen the YAM in action, riders galloping through blizzards, their faces wrapped against the cold, their horses foaming, their duty as sacred as any warrior's. You arrive at Karakoram, the Mongol capital, a sprawling sea of yurts stretching across the plains like mushrooms after a storm. No stone palaces, no marble columns, just felt domes that can be packed up in an hour and rebuilt by nightfall. It's a mobile command center, ready to vanish by dawn and reappear 5 valleys away, leaving no trace but hoof prints and ash. The Khan's yurt faces south always, its interior lined with furs, scrolls, and a throne built to withstand a siege of guests, sturdy and unadorned. Traders from Baghdad, princes from Kiev, spies from the Song dynasty, sit cross-legged on the floor, sipping erag, their eyes darting to avoid the woman in the corner disassembling a deer with a spoon, her movements precise and unhurried. There's no European bureaucracy here, no towers of scribes drowning in parchment. Just the Khan's steel-trap memory and a handful of assistants wielding bone styluses, their hands trembling with the weight of their task. Laws are spoken, decrees sent out on horseback, carried by riders who know a late delivery means death. Paper is rare, ink costly, mistakes fatal. Yet the streets are clean, the roads safe, trade routes pulsing like the empire's lifeblood. There's no poverty because there's no room for it. Everyone's useful or made useful, either contributing or riding off to prove their worth. This isn't Rome or Baghdad. It's the Mongol answer to civilization. Mobile, brutal, efficient, a city that moves with the wind. Karakoram is a hub of cultures, where Persian poets barter with Chinese silk merchants, where Buddhist monks chant beside shamans beating drums, their rhythms blending into a cacophony of empire. You walk its paths, dodging carts of grain and children practicing archery, their arrows thudding into straw targets with unnerving accuracy. Steal a horse, you're caught before you reach the tree line, your heart pounding as you're dragged before a man with a mustache sharp enough to count as a weapon. He's not angry, not shouting, just pointing at the horse, then at you, then at a flat, broad rock nearby, execution ready. Justice in the Mongol Empire is swift. Repay double if you can, or lose something, a finger, a hand, your head, depending on the horse's value and the judge's mood. You plead your case in 3 words, your voice shaking. Any more and they assume you're lying. The elders discuss, one spits into the dust, another shrugs. You live, but your sentence is to walk no horse. Trailing the caravan on foot until your honor's restored. A season, maybe several, the steppe offering no timeline. No jails, no appeals, no lengthy trials, murder. Death, unless it's a justified blood feud. Then you owe livestock, labor or a wife, preferably all 3. Honesty, courage, generosity are revered. Even if you smell like fermented despair and ride like a sack of potatoes, speak truth, keep your word, and you're worth feeding. Mongol law is harsh, fast, unbribable, a blade that cuts through ambiguity. The Yasa, Genghis Khan's code, governs all, simple rules etched into the empire's soul. loyalty to the Khan, discipline in battle, respect for the spirits. Break them, and the steppe itself seems to judge you. Its winds carrying the sentence. Siege time. A walled city looms on the horizon, its gates and guards radiating false confidence, their towers casting long shadows. You circle, slow and deliberate, noting crooked towers, weak gates, walls crumbling from neglect. Engineers roll up with carts of surprises, ropes, fire pots, catapults built on site from local trees, and the occasional monastery bench, repurposed with ruthless efficiency. The Mongols' siegecraft is a blend of innovation and terror, their engines hurling stones, fire, even plague-ridden corpses when desperation calls. Arrows rain like a storm, blackening the sky with a soft thud of progress, each one a message of inevitability. You don't charge blindly. You wait, letting panic do the work. Inside the city, citizens trip over each other, hiding gold, burying children, their shouts muffled by fear. Your engineers creep closer with ladders and catapults, so polite they might bow before launching. You hit the gate like wind with teeth, spilling through the breach, blades drawn, horses foaming, eyes narrowed with calculation, not rage. It's math, not madness, clear alleys, secure granaries, count supplies with the precision of a scribe. By nightfall, the city is Mongol, its banners replaced, its streets silent. You don't gloat, you inventory. Who's useful? Blacksmiths, weavers, scholars stay, their skills now serving the empire. The rest, they vanish efficiently, their fates unrecorded. The banners are up, the bodies down, the city quiet with the silence of submission. Its heartbeat now aligned with the Khan's. Now you govern. Conquest is just the start, the opening move in a game of control. Locals expect pillage, their eyes wide behind shattered windows. But you bring a census, not chaos. Skilled workers stay. Blacksmiths hammer, weavers thread. Scholars scribble for a Khan who's never read a book, but knows exactly how many arrows it takes to erase a library. There's no formal government, just you, a few scribes, and a mountain of Mongol common sense. Laws are simple. Obey the Khan, pay taxes, don't rebel. Enforcement is clear, one warning, then rope. Its knots tied with practiced hands. Trade routes reopen by noon. Toll stations manned by evening. Markets bustling with the sale of roasted fish, as if the siege never happened. You don't impose culture or build statues. You ensure the grain is counted, the caravans leave on time, and the roads are safer than they've ever been. It's not about identity, it's about efficiency. Temples and customs survive, their priests and rituals untouched. But rebellion is snuffed out like a spark in dry grass. You've conquered them, yes, but you've also improved delivery times, and the locals, once screaming, now nod in grudging gratitude. The Mongol administration is a marvel of pragmatism, with local leaders co-opted, their loyalty bought with protection and profit. You learn their languages, not out of respect but necessity, barking orders in Persian, Chinese, or Turkic, your tongue stumbling but your intent clear. The empire's reach is vast, its diversity a strength, its unity forged by the Khan's unyielding will. You ride to the empire's edge, where the air thins and rumors thicken like fog. No directions, just gestures, a shrug toward a snow-dusted mountain, a wave past a valley where smoke rises like a ghost. You pass strange stone towers, half-built forts abandoned mid-hammer, trees tied with faded ribbons, offerings to gods who've long stopped answering. A monastery's doors are gone, its walls scarred, A monk offers tea, his eyes steady as you track mud across his sacred floor. He's seen Mongols before, knows the cost of saying no. Rumors swirl, ghost armies riding at midnight, cities vanished overnight. A mountain pass, where a Khan's brother disappeared and returned 2 years later, smiling, never blinking, his stories locked behind his teeth. Your horse, a veteran of thunder and human flesh, spooks at shadows, its ears twitching at sounds you can't hear. You camp without fire, the silence heavy, broken only by wolves debating theology in the distance. You wrap your cloak tighter, check your blade twice, not for bandits but for the stories that start with "No one who rode this way." You scout, note every odd village, every field where the grass grows sideways, every temple half-finished and silent. You return, the empire's weight heavy behind you, its presence as real as the cold in your bones. You're alive, saintly by Mongol standards, your scroll pouch heavy with names, maps and tribute tallies, your boots blood-stained, your teeth fewer, but your purpose intact. History will call you savages, a horde of screaming horsemen, ignoring the roads you built, the laws you enforced, the tolerance you offered to those who bent the knee. They'll forget you gave cities a chance to surrender before unleashing fire, that you turned kingdoms into networks of trade and order. You didn't build a legacy for poets to sing about. You built a world, one hoofbeat at a time, making the earth smaller, its edges closer, its defiance a memory. Now let's pivot to Charlemagne, the Frankish king who reshaped Europe with a sword in one hand and a vision in the other. Born around 742 to Pepin the Short and Bertrada of Lyon, his birthplace is a mystery. Aachen, Ingelheim, Herstal, perhaps a dusty corner of a Frankish fort. No one kept birth certificates in the 8th century, least of all for a future emperor. Pepin had just pulled off a masterstroke, deposing a puppet king and securing papal blessing to crown himself king of the Franks. So Charlemagne grew up in a dynasty, rewriting the rules of power. His childhood was no gentle frolic through meadows. It was a crucible of swords, Latin prayers, and lessons in dodging the daggers of ambitious nobles. Tutors like Fulrad, a stern figure more likely to wield a switch than a storybook, drilled him in war, theology, and the art of keeping unruly lords in line. Standing over 6 feet tall in an era where 5 feet was impressive, Charlemagne was a giant in every sense, his presence commanding, his mind sharp even as a youth, taking to leadership like a wolf to the hunt, his every step a promise of conquest. His court at Aachen was a training ground, a place where young nobles learned to wield swords and recite scripture, their days filled with the clash of steel and the drone of Latin. Charlemagne's education wasn't just academic, it was practical, shaped by a father who knew the fragility of power in a world where loyalty was as fleeting as a summer storm. When Pepin died in 768, Charlemagne inherited half the Frankish kingdom, the other half going to his younger brother Carloman. It was meant to be a partnership, but it was a disaster, a cold war fought with glares and swords. Carloman sulked, his court a nest of suspicion, while Charlemagne crushed rebellions in Aquitaine, his brother refusing to send troops, a petty slight that spoke volumes. Tensions flared when Charlemagne married the daughter of Desiderius, king of the Lombards, to secure an alliance. Carloman saw it as betrayal given Desiderius's ties to their father. The brothers' courts operated like rival war camps, their alliance a fragile thread stretched to breaking. The Frankish nobles, sensing weakness, whispered of division, their loyalty wavering like reeds in the wind. Then in 771, Carloman died suddenly at 20. Natural causes. The official word, though in medieval terms that could mean fever, poison, or a particularly sharp glance. Charlemagne wasted no time, seizing his brother's lands with the speed of a man who'd been planning it since breakfast. Carloman's widow Gerberga and their children fled to Desiderius in Lombardy, seeking protection and sparking a feud that would ripple across Europe. Desiderius, now openly backing Carloman's heirs, declared them the rightful rulers of the Franks, a challenge Charlemagne couldn't ignore. The stage was set for a campaign that would redefine his reign. In 773, Charlemagne crossed the Alps to deal with Desiderius. No small feat. The mountains were a gauntlet of snow, narrow passes and avalanches waiting to claim the careless. But Charlemagne marched through like a man who didn't negotiate with nature. His army, a mix of Frankish knights and levies, trudged through snowdrifts, their armor clanking, their breath steaming in the frigid air. The Alps were a test of logistics as much as courage. Supply lines stretched thin, horses stumbled on icy paths, and men grumbled about the cold. Yet Charlemagne pressed on, his will a fire that warmed his troops. He laid siege to Pavia, the Lombard capital, surrounding the city and settling in for a long wait. Desiderius held out, his supplies dwindling, his morale crumbling like old stone. Months passed, the city starving, its defenders' resolve fading. The siege was a masterclass in patience, with Charlemagne's forces building camps, digging trenches and cutting off every road. By 774, Pavia surrendered, its gates creaking open to reveal a city gaunt with hunger. Charlemagne didn't just win. He crowned himself king of the Lombards, a bold move that echoed across Europe like a thunderclap. No puppets, no proxies, just Charlemagne. One man, one crown, and a growing list of enemies. He sent Desiderius to a monastery, a merciful exile that doubled as a warning. Even kings could be humbled. Pope Adrian I, watching nervously from Rome, was overjoyed. Desiderius had threatened the Papal States, and Charlemagne's victory was a godsend. In return, the Pope offered his blessing, forging an alliance with the Church that would bolster Charlemagne's power for decades. The donation of Pepin, his father's gift of lands to the Pope, was reaffirmed, cementing the Franks as protectors of Christendom. The Lombard campaign wasn't just a family feud turned conquest. It was a statement. Charlemagne wasn't playing by the old tribal rules. He was building an empire, one that would rival Rome's shadow. His coronation as king of the Lombards was a spectacle of power. With Charlemagne donning the iron crown of Lombardy, its simplicity a stark contrast to the weight of its meaning. Next he turned north to the Saxons, pagan tribes who'd been raiding Frankish borders for years, their warlike spirit matched only by their disdain for Christianity. Starting in 772, Charlemagne launched 18 campaigns over 30 years, a relentless grind that defined his reign. He stormed into Saxony, burned their sacred Irminsul tree, a massive oak revered as a pillar of the heavens, and declared it time to convert. The Saxons nodded politely, accepted baptism at sword point, then rebelled the moment his army left, torching churches and slaughtering priests. It was a cycle of conquest and revolt, a test of Charlemagne's patience. The Saxons, led by figures like Widukind, were no disorganized rabble. They were fierce, cunning, and deeply tied to their gods. Their forests were their fortress, their ambushes a constant thorn in Charlemagne's side. The most infamous moment came in 782 at Verdun, where he ordered the massacre of 4,500 Saxons in a single day, a bloodbath brutal even by medieval standards. The rivers ran red, the fields choked with bodies, and the message was clear: conversion wasn't optional, it was mandatory, a matter of spiritual salvation backed by steel. Charlemagne genuinely believed he was saving souls, even if it meant sending them to judgment first. Monks followed his armies, churches rose as fast as fortresses, and baptismal fonts came with swords as backup. The Saxons, stubborn as the forests they hid in, kept rebelling, their resistance a fire that refused to die. Year after year, revolt after revolt, the war dragged on. The forests of northern Germany, a graveyard for Frankish soldiers and a crucible for Charlemagne's will. The Saxon wars were a clash of worlds, Christian versus pagan, empire versus tribe, order versus chaos. The Saxons weren't just fighting for their gods, they were fighting for their way of life. Their villages, scattered among dense forests, were built for defense, with wooden palisades and hidden paths. Charlemagne's armies, used to open battles, struggled in the tangled terrain, their heavy armor a burden in the mud. Widukind, the Saxon leader, was a ghost striking from the shadows, rallying his people with promises of freedom. Charlemagne countered with a network of fortresses, called marques, to hold the land. Their stone walls a symbol of permanence in a region that resisted it. He installed counts and bishops, blending military and spiritual authority, their presence a reminder that the Franks were here to stay. By 804, after decades of blood, Widukind submitted, baptized in a ceremony that marked the end of the Saxon resistance. The cost was immense, thousands dead, villages razed, a culture subdued. But Charlemagne's empire now stretched to the Elbe, a frontier secured by steel and faith. But Charlemagne wasn't just a conqueror swinging a sword. He sparked the Carolingian Renaissance, a revival of learning in an empire where most of his court couldn't read their own names. The administration was a mess, a game of medieval telephone where even the Bible was misinterpreted by illiterate priests. Charlemagne declared education a priority, inviting the best scholars in Europe to his court. Chief among them was Alcuin of York, an Anglo-Saxon intellectual who treated bad Latin like a personal offense, his quill sharper than any blade. Under Alcuin's guidance, Charlemagne founded palace schools, set curriculum standards, and pushed literacy for priests, scribes, even peasants, an audacious move for the time. Latin was the language of power, the key to the Vulgate Bible, and Charlemagne wanted his empire to speak it fluently. Monks copied manuscripts in scriptoria, their hands cramped from hours of work, preserving texts that might have been lost to time. The Carolingian minuscule, a clear readable script, was born here, a legacy that shaped medieval writing for centuries. Ironically, Charlemagne himself was barely literate, speaking several languages but struggling with writing. Practicing late at night with wax tablets under his pillow, his large hands fumbling with the stylus, yet he valued knowledge, respected scholars and led by example, standardizing texts and fostering a culture where ideas matched steel in importance. The Carolingian Renaissance wasn't about art or poetry. It was about making sure the empire could read, write, and govern without falling apart, a foundation for centuries to come. Aachen became a beacon of learning, its palace a hub where scholars debated theology, astronomy, and law. their voices echoing in halls lined with mosaics. Charlemagne's vision was practical but profound. An empire united not just by conquest, but by knowledge, its borders guarded by swords, its heart sustained by words.